What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Stefan, and tonight I'm going to be talking about and celebrating the 35th anniversary to one of the most amazing MJ classics ever made, which is Bad. Before we head into the video, please don't forget to like, share, and comment on the video. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. Welcome back to the channel if you're a returning subscriber. Also, don't forget to turn on your notification for new videos. Thank y'all for your daily support and love on the channel. I deeply appreciate it so much. So here we go. Happy 35th anniversary to one of the most amazing, greatest, and influential MJ classics ever made with Bad. His 7th album was released on August 31st, 1987 on Epic Records. Following the colossal success of 1982 Thrillers, it took 5 years for Michael Jackson to release his highly anticipated follow-up, which is the 1987 Bad. He once again collaborated with producer Quincy Jones as he did for Thriller and 1979 Off the Wall. But this would be their last time working together. This final installment of the Jackson/Jones trio was another massive hit, selling millions of records worldwide, along achieving more awards and accolades. Michael reportedly started demos for the album as early as November of 1983, while he was working on the Victory album with his brothers. He will also create songs at his home studio and bring them into Westlake Audio Studio in Los Angeles to be reproduced and remixed by Quincy Jones and engineer Bruce Sweden. The recording process began in January of 1985, around the time Michael co-produced, co-wrote, and Quincy produced the all-star charity single We Are the World. The recording sessions wrapped in July of 1987 with I Just Can't Stop Loving You being released as the first single in the same month before the album's August release. Like Thriller, Bad was a mix of R&B, rock, pop, and ballads that once again provide the formula to top the pop charts internationally. It has sold on approximately 35 million records worldwide and certified diamond status, with more than 11 million copies sold in the US, where the album sold over 2 million copies in the first week. Of the album's 11 songs, 9 were released as singles, and the album was the first to produce 5 #1 pop singles on the Billboard Hot 100. I Just Can't Stop Loving You, Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, Man in the Mirror, and Dirty Diana, Smooth Criminal, and Another Part of Me were top 20 singles, while Leave Me Alone and Liberian Girl was released as singles, which topped the pop chart in Ireland. The film Moonwalker was released in 1988 and featured several music videos from Bad. This led to a Moonwalker video game being released by the Sega Genesis Council in 1990, and it was based around the visuals from Smooth Criminal. In 1987, there really wasn't a bigger star than Michael Jackson. After the highest selling album of all time, Thriller, Michael was untouchable and on top of the world. He could have been satisfied with the best selling album of all time, but Michael Jackson was a perfectionist and loved to challenge himself. He wanted to go beyond and better what he had done before. So he went into the studio at the very beginning of 1987 and started an album that's personally my favorite in his whole entire catalog. Today we look back at the album that is turning 35 this year in 2022. Isn't it crazy how time flies? In the official 13 years since the unfortunate and tragic death of MJ, it is a testament to his talent that his albums are so still revere and hold a special place in music history due to being some of the highest albums of all time. In the list of the 75 highest selling albums of all time, MJ has 5 of them, and 3 of them are over 30 million copies worldwide. One of those albums, the album we will be talking about today, which is Bad, released in late August of 1987. This album is one of his crown jewels in the catalog. And today we get to break the album down, talking the process of creation, the production, the best songs, the best lyrics, and some of the most amazing tracks from the bad sessions that were left off of the album. Let's get to it. Let's get into it. How do you top the biggest selling album of all time? How do you top a cultural phenomenon? How do you top yourself? These were some of the questions that Michael Jackson faced as he prepared to record his follow-up to the global smash that was Thriller in 1982. For Michael, the answer was, as it always been, since the age of 5, put in the work to spend hours, days, weeks, months, and years writing, crafting, and perfecting the songs that would eventually form Bad, but looking to top, match, or even exist in the same stratosphere as Thriller was going to be a daunting task. In the 5 years since the release of Thriller, Michael Jackson has spent 2 years riding the crest of the wave, recording and touring with his brothers for Victory, which was released in 1984. Developed and starred in the groundbreaking 4D Disney extravaganza Captain EO, and set about writing another landmark album for a public eager to celebrate his return, and a media baking on the extra column within a fall from grace that could bring. Michael Jackson re-teamed with famed producer Quincy Jones to create the final chapter, and they created a finecta of a partnership. As he did Thriller, Michael Jackson took on more responsibility, writing 9 of the 10 tracks, producing the album alongside Quincy Jones, contrast to his eager apprentice role Off the Wall in 1979. Michael Jackson was ready to have greater creative control with a distant vision and sound for bad that would see him as an be equal master of production to Quincy Jones. And so on August 31st, 1987, 2 days after his 29th birthday, the world finally got to hear what he has been working on. And with it, we realize anticipation has a sound, and this sound exactly like the four sending sap open to the opening vamp of bad. As the first notes on that album climb to intro minutes, the building anticipating of what Michael delivers and echoes the expectation for the audience for bigger and better things. This was his response to the speculation about whether not he could equal or dare top the success of Thriller. From the outset, Michael throws down the lyrical gauntlet when he declares the whole world has to answer right now. It isn't a overstatement of ego, it's a declarance of funk. The line alone reflects the challenge and pressure of having to prove itself once more, and he more than arrives to the occasion. Throughout the length of the album, MJ reminded us why he's such a captivating artist. His penchant for perfectly crafted pop is on full display in the album's many highlights that demand attention from your ears and cast a spell over your feet. His sixth album, the record-shattering musical blockbuster Thriller, was released in 1982. With 32 million copies sold worldwide by the end of 1983, Thriller became the best-selling album of all time. It was the best-selling album of 1983 worldwide, and in 1984, it became the first album to become the best-selling in the US for 2 years. It set industry standards with its songs, music videos, and promotional strategies, influencing artists, record labels, producers, marketers, and choreographers. The success gave Michael Jackson a preceding level of cultural significance for a Black American, breaking racial barriers in popular music, earning him regular airplay on MTV, leading to a meeting with U.S. President Ronald Reagan at the White House. Thriller was among the first albums to use musical videos as promotional tools. The videos for Billie Jean, Beat It, and Thriller are credited for transforming music videos into a serious art form. Thriller remains the best-selling album of all times with sales of 70 million copies worldwide. It is the second best-selling album in the United States and was certified 34 times platinum. It won a record-breaking 8 Grammy Awards at the 1984 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year, while Beat It won Record of the Year. Michael Jackson also won a record-breaking 8 American Music Awards at the 1984 American Music Awards. The album has been frequently included in lists of the greatest albums of all time. Michael Jackson was widely considered the most powerful and popular African American in the history of the entertainment industry. In between of Thriller and the Making of Bad, he spent 2 years riding the crest of that wave, recording and touring with his brothers for their album Victory, which was released in 1984. The next year, however, besides making a brief appearance in We Are the World, he was nowhere to be seen in 1985. It was a strategizing move from a performer who understood the power of anticipation and mystery. 1986 was much the same. MJ was said to be reclusive and hiding, and made a few public appearances. The years following Thriller was marred by his rifts with his family and the Jehovah's Witnesses, broken friendships with celebrities, and the pressure of being the most popular celebrity in the world. He also spent 1985 out of the public eye, while reports spread of erratic behavior. Not only had he built an empire through his record-shattering albums, videos, and performances, he had also resurrected the fortunes of CBS and Epic Records, surging life into MTV, setting the bar high for live entertainment. He smartly retained full ownership of his master recordings, and with the help of his attorney, actively acquired public rights, including songs by Sly and the Family Stone, Ray Charles, and of course, the crown jewel of popular music, the Beatles catalog. In mid-1985, work was paused again so he can prepare for Disney's 4D film experience, Captain EO, which featured an earlier version of the song Another Part of Me. He was outwitting some of the most popular figures in the industry. He was growing financially and artistically, and he was beginning to learn how to wield his considerable power and cultural influence for more social and political ends. It was no coincidence that this was the precise moment where the tide began to shift. From industry heavyweights and media alike, there was suspicion, resentment, and jealousy. The backlash then was not merely about his perceived insensibilities, it was also about power, money, and more subtle forms of institutional and cultural dominance. Now, Michael Jackson was a financial force to be reckoned with. However, his status also turned him into an enormous target. Tabloids soon began to disparage him with the nickname Wacko Jacko, a term MJ despises. It was a term first applied by the pop star by the British tabloid The Sun in 1985. Its racial history goes back even further. Jacko Morocco was the name of a famous monkey used in monkey battering matches at the Westminster Pit in London in the early 1820s. The term Jacko or Jacko Morocco was cocky slang referred to monkeys in general. In the ensuing years, it was used by the tabloids and mainstream media alike with a contempt that left no doubt about its intent. Even those with no knowledge of its racial roots, it was obviously used to idolize, humiliate, and demean its target. Its racial term was used widely by the racist white media. A part of his disappearance then It also had to do with the realities of his life. He no longer walked freely in the world without being mobbed, scrutinized, and dissent. It's October 1986, and Michael Jackson hold in a West Hollywood recording studio trying to complete the follow-up to Thriller, the best-selling album of all time. The new record has been in production for almost a year already and long overdue. There has been many problems. His retreat was in his art from 1985 to 1987, away from the public eye. He was writing and recording. That section would generate more than 60 songs and various state in different states of completion. At one point, he considered releasing it as a triple disc album. According to some associates, MJ was nervous about completing his next album. However, it wasn't just commercial success he was after. Michael Jackson wanted to innovate. He told collaborators he wanted to create a new sound the ears never heard before. It has now become stuff a legend that Michael Jackson wrote 100 million on his bathroom mirror, the numbers of albums he expect bad to sell. The figure was more than double the number of what Thriller has sold to that point. Such was the scope of his ambition. The last 4 years has not been a good time for Michael Jackson. Since Thriller and the Jacksons' Victory Tour, he managed to generate the most powerful backlash in the history of popular entertainment. There was bitter family feuds, a rift with the Jehovah's Witnesses, broken friendships, and a burden of being a celebrity so unmanageable that it drove him to insulation. Also, there were also problems at home centering on his family and his father, Joe Jackson, intensifying with Michael's success. Michael first broke with his father in 1981 after the last of their management contracts expired. As his solo career took off, bad feelings grew among his brothers, simulated by his father's manipulations. One by one, each of the Jackson brothers produced solo records, and one by one, each was a failure. Then, in 1979, Michael released Off the Wall, which sold over 20 million and was certified 9 times platinum. Afterwards, some of the Jacksons stopped speaking to one another and blamed Michael for the group's failure. His plan was to call for a major tour of his own to support Thriller, and as well as different film projects, but the pressure from his father and his brothers finally became too great, and he bowed to their wishes. The tour and the album would be whipped to justify its existence were titled Victory. It was a disaster. Michael was hospitalized when his hair caught on fire during the film of a commercial for Pepsi. The accident caused second-degree burns to his scalp. Michael went treatment to hide the scars and had his third rhinoplasty shortly after. Pepsi settled out of court, and MJ donated the $1.5 million settlement to medical center in California. The Victory Tour headlined the Jacksons and showcased his new solo material to more than 2 million Americans. It was the last tour he did with his brothers. Following controversy over the concert ticket sales, Michael Jackson donated his share of the proceeds, an estimate 3 to 5 million, to charity. During the last concert of the Victory Tour at the Dodgers Stadium in Los Angeles, Michael announced his split from the Jacksons. His charitable work continued with the release of We Are the World, co-written with Lionel Richie, which raised money for the poor in the U.S. and in Africa. It earned $63 million and became one of the best-selling albums of all time with 20 million sold. It also won 4 Grammy Awards in 1985, including Song of the Year for Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie as its writers, even including reports of his plastic surgery, his private life, and his Liberian chamber conspired to make him a national joke. A joke repeated each time with another line and another irrelevant Michael Jackson merchandise hit the store. In short time, he gone from being one of the most admired of celebrities to the most acerb, and the pressure to restore himself in the public eye is paralyzing him. Also, there have been numerous speculations about his health and his appearance. His dermatologist said he observed in 1983 that Michael Jackson had vitiligo, a condition characterized by patches losing pigment and sensitivity to sunlight. He also identified lupus and MJ, the effects of vitiligo cause the stress. Michael used fair-colored makeup through possibly skin bleaching descriptions to cover up even blocks of color caused by the illness. The creams were further lightening his skin, and with the application of makeup, he could appear very pale. The stories about his skin and his appearance were out of control and not true. Bad was his final collaboration with Quincy Jones, who produced Off the Wall and Thriller. After MJ had written a handful of the songs on Off the Wall and Thriller, Quincy Jones encouraged him to write more to his follow-up. Quincy Jones recalled all the turmoil and Michael's life was starting to mount up. So I said I thought it was time for him to do a very honest album. Michael wanted to move in a new musical direction with a harder edge and fiercer sound. Michael began recording demos in November of 1983 while recording Victory with the Jacksons. He spent much of 1985 to 1987 writing and recording at his home studio in Los Angeles with a group of musicians and engineers. By the time he brought demos to Westlake Studios to work on with Quincy Jones and Bruce Sweden of the A-Team, most of the key elements of the song were in place. Work was destructed in July of 1984 when Michael Jackson embarked on the Victory Tour with his brothers. Work resumed in January of 1985 after the tour ended and after MJ had recorded We Are the World. In mid-1985, work paused again so he could prepare for Disney 4D film experience Captain EO, which featured an earlier version of the Bad song Another Part of Me. Work resumed in August and continued until November 1986 when Michael Jackson filmed the Bad video. Recording resumed in January 1987 and the album was completed in July. Michael Jackson wrote a report of 60 songs and recorded 30 of them, wanting to use them on all on a 3-disc set. Quincy Jones suggested that the album can be cut down to a 10-track single LP. Michael Jackson is credited for writing all but 2 songs. Other writing credits including Terry Britton and Graham Lowes for Duster's Good Friends and Cedar Garrett and Glenn Barrett for Man in the Mirror. Michael was eager to find innovative sounds and was interested in new music technology. The team made excessive use of new digital synthesizers. Sometimes they combine synthesizers with the new sound to create new sounds. Other instruments including guitar, organs, percussion, saxophone, washboard, drums, bass, and digital guitars. The album was set to feature huge features from some of the greatest stars in the industry, possibly making this the most star-studded album in music history if Michael would have pulled this off. However, egos and politics are the law in this industry, and most of these collaborations never happened. Diana Ross was one name tossed around to be on the album, reuniting her and Michael after many years, but that didn't come to fruition. There were also talks of Aretha Franklin and even Barbra Streisand set to appear on the album, but of course that didn't occur. One has to wonder where they would have fit on the album, as I don't see a space for them honestly here. But the rumor still persists to this day that those who were supposed to be a part of the album. However, there are 2 big collaborations that were close to happening but never came to terms. First of those collaborations was set to be Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson on the first single and ballad, I Just Can't Stop Loving You, which could have done wonder for the album sales. Imagine the numbers if Whitney and Michael released a duet leading into the album release. Now, it's probably funny to say that an appearance from Whitney would have took the album even higher in sales, as it is already one of the highest selling albums ever. But one would think that putting the 2 biggest stars in the world together on a duet like that, one could be one of the greatest songs and biggest hits ever. The end result still would turn out very well with Cedar Garrett, but there's no denying that Whitney would have made the song bigger and better. Probably the biggest missed duet opportunity in music history. 2 of the all-time greats were this close to working together, but according to Whitney's people, basically Clive Davis, they didn't want to overexpose, so they turned that down in the end. How in the hell could a duet between the biggest star in the world and arguably the second biggest star in the world, hurt them. Regardless, this was a big missed opportunity I wish we could have heard of. Speaking of missed opportunity, the final and most infamous missed collaboration from this album period comes in the form of the title track that was supposed to be a back and forth between Michael and Prince. Prince and Michael was competing for the top spot creatively and as artists, but I believe that they had a great respect for each other. However, as always, ego in politics plays a big role when you add the fact that Michael wrote the title track himself and Prince was definitely not going to go through with the song and sing those lyrics. He hilariously spoke about the incident on the Chris Rock show years later, but the fact remains, we missed on this track to hear the chance two of the greatest legends ever together. Now it's time for the breakdown of the track list of Bad. A look of each track and a rating for each song on the album. It's tough to rate songs like this, especially for Michael, but we can different from the best and the worst of this album, even if there isn't too much that bad about it. So here we go. The first single that's coming off from the album is the title track. The second single and the title track from his seventh solo album, Bad. The song was written and composed by Michael Jackson and produced by Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. It is the first to have a video that shows his more aggression, edgier style of dance and song, and not to mention Michael's new vision. Originally intended to feature Prince in both song and video, and his part in the short film eventually went to an unknown Wesley Snipes. He stated that the song was influenced by a real-life story he had read about of a young man who tried to escape poverty by attending private school but ended up being killed when he returned home. The short film for Bad premiered in a TV special, Michael Jackson The Magic Returns, on CBS during prime time on August 31st, 1987. It was directed by Martin Scorsese and co-starred Wesley Snipes in one of his first appearances. The video, inspired in part by the film West Side Story, showed Michael Jackson and a group of gangsters portraying a street gang dancing in a subway station set at the Hoyton-Schermerhorn Street Station in Brooklyn. It has been praised by critics as one of the most iconic and greatest videos of all time. His outfit been recognized as an influence on fashion. Michael Jackson wrote and recorded Bad in 1986. It was co-produced by Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones and included as the title track on his seventh studio album, released in 1987. He planned for a duet with Prince, but Prince declined the invitation. In a later interview with Chris Rock, Prince said the first line of that song is "Your Butt Is Mine." Then I said, Who's going to sing that to who? Because you sure ain't going to sing that. You ain't singing that to me. And I sure ain't singing it to you. In his 1988 autobiography, Moonwalk, Michael Jackson wrote that Bad is a song about the streets. It's about this kid from a bad neighborhood who gets away to private school. He comes back to the old neighborhood when he's on a break from school, and the kids from the neighborhood start giving him some trouble. He sings, I'm bad, you're bad, who's the best? He's saying, when you're strong and good, then you're bad. In a 1988 interview with Jet and Ebony magazines, Michael Jackson said he was inspired by a true story that he had read about either in Time or Newsweek. Michael Jackson stated that the story was about a student who went to a school in upstate New York who was from the ghetto, had tried to make something out of his life and planned to leave all of his friends behind when he returned from Thanksgiving break. He added that the student's friends' jealousy resulted in then killing the student. MJ stated that the student's death was not included in the music video. The full music video for Bad is a 18-minute short film written by screenwriter Richard Price, shot by Michael Chapman, and directed by Martin Scorsese. The video was shot in Brooklyn over a 6-week period during November and December 1986. The video has many references to the 1961 film West Side Story, especially the cool scene. The video used a different version of the song opposed to the commercially released version. This version used a different organ solo in the middle. Hasn't been commercially released as of yet. In the video, Michael Jackson portrays a teenager named Daryl who just completed a term at an expensive private school. He returns to the city and takes the subway back home to a neglected neighborhood. Daryl finds his home empty, where he is greeted by his old friends. The leader of the group is Minnie Max, who is played by a then unknown Wesley Snipes. At first, relations are friendly but slightly awkward. The situation begins to deteriorate as the gang starts to realize how much Daryl has changed. They especially notice how uncomfortable he has been with the criminal activities. Daryl takes the gang to the subway station, which is Hoyton Silverhorn Streets in Brooklyn, in an attempt to show his friends he's still bad by robbing an elderly man. He has a change of heart at the last minute, and Minnie Max chastises him, telling Daryl he's no longer bad. When Daryl provoked, the video then cuts to him and a group of street youths dancing while he sings the song Bad. Daryl insisted that Max is heading for a fall, which is Daryl's undoing. Eventually, Minnie Max accepts that, and after a final handshake, leave Daryl in peace. At the end of the video, Daryl is left watching his former gang lead wearing clothes with a notable amount of buckles. And Michael Jackson showcased his street tough, edgier image for the first time. The choreographers for the video, Michael Jackson, Jeffrey Daniels, and Greg Berg, was influenced by West Side Story when designing the dance routines, but wanted to keep the scene more contemporary and incorporated the moonwalk into the movement. The video received a nomination for choreograph at the 1988 MTV Video Music Awards ceremony. The video for Bad and The Way You Make Me Feel was both nominated for Best Choreography. However, the video from his younger sister Janet, the Pleasure Principle, won the award. The full video won awards at various award ceremonies, including Favorite Single, Soul/R&B at the American Music Awards, the best-selling album by a male soloist in the UK from the Guinness Book of World Records. The video has been praised by critics as the most iconic and greatest videos of all time. His outfit has been an influence on fashion. Bad received positive reviews, with some critics noting that Bad helped gave MJ an edgier image. Michael is more aggressive and challenged all who might oppose or bother him, making this the toughest track in his discography this far. The aggressive confidence was a change of pace for Michael, and it worked. Bad brought the world to a new, improved Michael Jackson. Throughout this track, Michael displayed a new percussion and unbashful, soulful vocal approach. The track Authority helped and Boasting helped humanize Michael Jackson, changed his image, and it was fun hearing him talking trash and being his own biggest booster. This single was the B-side to I Can't Help It. It reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and remains there for 2 weeks, becoming the album's second #1 single and its 8th #1 entry on the chart. It also charted on a Hot R&B single, Hot Dance Club Play, and rhythm charts at #1. The title track was nominated for 2 Grammy Awards at the 30th Annual Grammy Awards for Male Pop Vocal Performance and Best Male R&B Vocal Performance. He lost to Sting Bring On the Night in the Best Male Pop Vocal Performance category, and Smokey Robinson just to see her in the Best Male R&B Vocal Performance category. Bad is certified platinum. The second single that's coming up next from the album is The Way You Make Me Feel. Michael boasts his confidence, but in The Way You Make Me Feel, he lets his guard down and needs assurance from the girl who makes him feel good and wants her to hold him close. A music video for The Way You Make Me Feel was released at the time Michael was pursuing and dancing with former model Tatiana Thompson. Epic Records released the single from the album in November that year. The Way You Make Me Feel was written and co-produced by Michael Jackson and produced by Quincy Jones. Before the recording of Bad, MJ had written more than 60 songs for the album, with plans of releasing a 3-disc album, but Quincy Jones convinced him to make Bad a 1-disc LP. The Way You Make Me Feel and 10 other songs was selected for the album. The music video for The Way You Make Me Feel was directed by Joe Picker and was filmed in June 1987 at Skid Row, Los Angeles. It was choreographed by Michael Jackson and Vincent Patterson. The short version of the video was 6 minutes and 44 minutes long, and the full version was 9 minutes and 33 seconds long. The video begins with a group of men trying to pick up women but failing. One of the men, MJ, is told to go home and not to hang around the other guys no more. When Michael Jackson was home, a elderly man who was sitting on the steps of his home tell him to just be himself. He noticed a woman played by model/dancer Tatiana Thompson walking down the street shortly after. Michael walks out of the alley and stands in front of Tatiana while she's walking down the street. However, she's annoying him and keeps on walking, with perhaps the other dogs to make fun of him. MJ shouts at them, which gets the attention of everyone, including Tatiana. After walking up to her, he begins singing "The Way You Make Me Feel" to her while also dancing. Uninterested, she walks away. He follows her, having to be cheered by his friends to pursue her. Another dance routine begins involving the man's friends, which leads to the men pursuing the woman throughout the neighborhood. The video ends with the man eventually winning the woman over and embracing her while the fire hydrant sprays out water. The video clip featured an appearance by his sister LaToya as one of her friends. The music video was released on October 31st, 1987 and received one nomination at the 1988 MTV Music Awards ceremony. The video, aside the bad video, was nominated for Best Choreograph, but lost to Pleasure Principle from his youngest sister, Janet. The Way You Make Me Feel generally charted within the top 10 and top 20 position on music charts worldwide. The song climbed to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 on the charts issue date of December 26, 1987. After charting within the top 10 for 5 weeks, the song peaked at number 1 on the Hot 100 on January 23rd, 1988. The Way You Make Me Feel became the album's third consecutive straight single to reach number 1 on the Hot 100. That song charted Billboard Adult Contemporary chart, peaking at number 9 and on the Hot Dance Music Maxi Sale chart at the peak of number 3. The song also charted number 1 on the Hot Black Single charts and Dance Club Play singles. With a deep mix of musical layers from jagging strings to hot and sexy horn blasts that intoxicant shuffle swing beat. The Way You Make Me Feel is a high dose of elastic funk that seemed predestined to be a hit. This smooth jam was really aggressive, then realizing honestly the way the video played out, you can see how they were looking to put Michael's image in a different light. This song is great. The transitions are flawless and vocally, Michael coasts over the funky production without breaking a sweat. The Way You Make Me Feel is genuinely received positive results from contemporary music critics, the single was certified 2 times platinum. The third single that's coming up next from the album is Speed Demon. It was written, composed, and co-produced by Michael Jackson and produced by Quincy Jones. Speed Demon is a funk rock song which lyrics pertain to driving fast. The song was released on September 4th, 1989 as a promotional single for both the album and the 1988 film Moonwalker. According to Quincy Jones, Michael wrote the song after he received a traffic ticket which caused him to arrive late to the recording studio. Quincy Jones told him to write about how he felt, which he did, thereby turning it into a song. Although Speed Demon was a part of his Bad album, Michael did not perform this song during his Bad World Tour or nor any of his other tours. He filmed a promotional video for the song in March of 1988 at Warner Brothers Studio Burbank. It is first seen as a segment in the anthology film Moonwalker. As the video begins, MJ tries to evade overzealous fans and interviewers, disguising himself as a rabbit named Spike. However, as his alter ego, he goads the fans into chasing him. During the chase, he morphs into different celebrities. After finally losing the mob, he removes the costume, which comes to life, and challenges him to a dance-off. As the two finish dancing, a police officer approaches and indicted a no moonwalking sign. MJ tries to explain the situation, but Spike has vanished. The officer sarcastically indicts that he needs MJ's autograph on a violation ticket, which MJ grudgingly provides. The officer departed, and as MJ prepares to do the same, a rocky craft in the distance morphs into Spike's head. MJ and the rock formation smile at each other. Speed Demon received mixed reviews from contemporary critics. One of the rare missteps on this album, honestly. Speed Demon isn't a bad song. It just didn't seem to go with the flow of the album, and it's far from one of my favorite MJ songs. But I would be lying if I didn't admit the video helped made it 10 times stronger than it actually really is. The song could have been replaced by a more melodic yet better I'm So Blue, but for some reason, perhaps the video was the video for all this, Michael and Quincy decided for this one to be on the album. The fourth single that's coming up next from the album is one of my all-time MJ favorites, called Liberian Girl. The song Liberian Girl is the 9th gem from the astonishing album Bad. Not released in the United States. Liberian Girl is still the ninth single released from MJ's album in Europe and Australia. He was very fascinated with Africa, with the wildlife, to the culture. The song had a positive review and response, but it shines brighter in Liberia. MJ says, I wrote that at my house in the game room. I guess I was playing some pinball or something, and the song just popped into my head. And I think I ran upstairs, put it on tape, and it became Liberian Girl. I don't think about it. It just comes. The video for the song was filmed in 2 days in April of 1989 at A&M Chaplin Stage in Los Angeles, California. The music video featured many of his celebrity friends who gathered on a stage sound to film the music video for Liberian Girl, only to discover that MJ was filming them all along. Numerous celebrities appeared in the video, including Quincy Jones, Billy D. Williams, Paula Abdul, Whoopi Goldberg, etc., etc. Perhaps one of the most underrated songs on the album, and possibly in MJ's catalog, this song starts such as a dizzy yet but captivating rhythm, and the smooth vocals of Michael just evacuate everything to a notch higher. This is one of my favorites here on the album, and it's the most traditional R&B sounding song with the most beautifully layered vocals of Michael on the chorus. The fifth single that's coming up next from the album is Just Good Friends with Stevie Wonder. Just Good Friends is a duo between the king of pop and the most Grammy awarded male artist ever, soul legend Stevie Wonder. Bad was supposed to be a star-studded LP of duets featuring Prince, Whitney Houston, Barbra Streisand, and Diane Ross, but Stevie was the only one of the two that ever materialized. Whitney, among others, backed out of I Can't Stop Loving You, leaving Siedah Garrett to sing the duet with Michael last minute. Just Good Friends was the only song on the LP not to receive either a music video or a release as a single. It was also the only song apart from Man in the Mirror that Michael didn't help write. Michael and Stevie sing a woman who was a mutual lover to them, but she seemed to neglect both, Stevie and a Michael collaboration should be something amazing. This wasn't it. It's not a bad song, as Michael really didn't make bad songs, but this could been replaced with Fly Away or Streetwalker. I've been perfectly fine with it. Stevie and Michael vocally are great, but the song is a rare miss that lacks the strength of the rest of the album best songs, and even the production so what fathers along with the lyrics. Just Good Friends is a curious inclusion for these two powerhouse performers, and those two grades deserve a better song than this. And later got it on Stevie's pen, Get It, from his Characters album. It's fair to say that compared to what else is included on his album, this is bad only weak spot. The sixth single that's coming up next from the album, that's another one of my favorite MJ favorites, is Another Part of Me, produced by Quincy Jones and co-produced by Michael Jackson. It was released as the sixth single on July 11th, 1988. Another Part of Me is the sixth single from his Bad album. It originally appeared at the end of his 1986 short film project for Disney, Captain EO, without the second verse and with a different mix. It is the sixth song on the album, with earlier songs in his career as Can You Feel It and We Are the World. The lyrics emphasizes global unity, love, and outreach. The grooving, intergalactic jam of Another Part of Me with its funk Latin horn blast, lush layered harmonies, and uplift and hi-hat pattern hittings to the embroidered New Jack sound that will rise in popularity in the part of the 80s and own much of the musical landscape in the early to mid 90s. This song was featured in a trailer for his 1988 film Moonwalker and was featured as a dance attack and level song for the later revisions of Michael Jackson's Moonwalker video game. The song was also featured in the 1998 classic film Rush Hour during a scene with Chris Tucker dancing. The production seemed to sum up during this period, and honestly it hits on all cylinders and seemed to work perfectly as an anthem. When you think of Bad, I would think this is the song that hits my mind first. The flawless transition from the verse to the chorus is my favorite part of the song. The seventh song that's coming up next from the album, that's another one of my MJ favorites, is Man in the Mirror. It was written by Glenn Barrett and Cedar Garrett. Quincy Jones invited Cedar to his home with a group of other songwriters and asked him to write material for his next album. Cedar Garrett recalled that Quincy Jones just told the group, "I just want hits. That's all I want." Cedar Garrett took the brief to her writing partner, Glenn Barrett, who began playing a keyboard figure. Cedar wrote the lyrics. The two wrote a demo over a course of a week with Cedar Garrett on the vocals. Cedar Garrett delivered the tape to Quincy Jones, who called back a few hours later to tell her it was really good at Michael's request. Cedar Garrett and Glenn Barrett wrote a longer middle eight and modified the lyrics. Quincy Jones enlisted the Andre Crouch Choir to record gospel vocals. One of the videos is a notable departure from his other videos because Michael Jackson himself didn't appear in the video aside from a brief clip towards the end of the video, which he can be seen donning a red jacket and standing in a large crowd. Instead, it featured a montage of footage of various major news events and famous people. The Man in the Mirror video was directed, produced, and edited by Don Wilson. Don and Michael developed the idea for the video. It featured monetary clips of starving children in Africa, or the Hitler America's so-called relatives, George Lincoln, Roswell, American Nazi Party, the Ku Klux Klan, Martin Luther King Jr., the Kent State shootings, Mother Teresa, Gandhi, Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, the June struggles in South Korea, homeless people in the U.S., and other historian figures. An alternative live video was used in the opening song in his film Moonwalker, with live audio and footage from several live performances of the song during the Bad War Tour. The first segment of Moonwalker is a live performance of Man in the Walker during his Bad Tour in Europe and America. Clips from Met Center, among others, can be seen. Man in the Mirror topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 2 weeks, becoming his 10th #1 single on the charts. It was nominated for Record of the Year at the 31st Grammy Award and was certified 3 times platinum. By the way, he emotionally invested in the song, and he transformed it and truly making it his own, pouring himself into every word of the song. He took the lyrics with soul, heartache, hope, and inspiration all at once. With a swirling build, Michael interpreted the lyrics, showing true mastery. His vocals are raw and dripping with humanity. And the way that he twists and climbs the melody to a chorus shifts the song to another level. When he transformed the song into a drawn-out gospel call in response, the song is filled with spirit. Michael just lays it all out there, taking on both convert and preacher. His impassioned pleas are underscored by the glorious choral backing of the Andre Crouch chorus, laying the strong gospel foundation to leap from. Each passing phrase and applet gives the song energy and vibrates through the speakers into your heart. MJ is in his power as a vocalist, going from sweet in one phase to commanding in the next, making utterly compelling listen. Probably the most iconic single from Michael, this heartfelt inspiration track is really one of the best songs on the album, and dare I say, a top 5 MJ song of all time in terms of importance. The production is magic. The vocals is resounding. The chorus near the end is a beautiful touch, and that already evacuate a classic song to a new level. This anthem would definitely give you instant goosebumps throughout the entire song. The 8th song that's coming up next from the album, that's my #1 all-time MJ favorite, which is I Just Can't Stop Loving You. I Just Can't Stop Loving You was a 1987 duet ballad by Michael Jackson and Sita Garrett, and was the first single released from Bad. The song was written by Michael Jackson and co-produced by Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. The presence of Cedar Jones on the track was a last-minute decision by Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. After his first two choices for the duet both decided against participating, Cedar Garrett, a protege of Quincy Jones, who co-wrote another song on Bad, Man in the Mirror, did not know she would be singing the song until the day of the recording session. It became her first hit since Dennis Edwards' 1984 song, Don't Look Any Further. I Just Can't Stop Loving You is a smooth ballad that expresses the strong attachment and infatuation that often accompanies falling in love. Michael initially wanted Whitney Houston or Barbra Streisand to appear on the song with him, but they declined the offer. Arista Records thought that if she performed on the song, it might distract from the promotion of her sophomore album, Whitney. Ultimately, a different singer duet with Michael on I Just Can't Stop Loving You, Cedar Garrett. Intricately, Cedar Garrett wrote another one of his ballads called Man in the Mirror and performed back vocals on it. Cedar had no idea she was being considered to appear on the song, saying that she found out by surprise when reporting to what she thought was a Man in the Mirror section. She said, "We had just finished the chorus and everything, and all the vocals for Man in the Mirror. Then a couple of days later, we were back in the studio, and I thought we were going to do more work on that song, but it wasn't the song that was playing in the studio, so I decided to sit back and chill. I was sitting, Quincy sort of talking to me over his shoulder saying, 'Do you like the song that's playing?' And I sort of looked up towards the heavens and I go, 'Yeah, yes, nice song.' He said, 'Well, can you sing it?' And I was like, 'Yeah.' So I put my knitting down and went into the booth, and I hear Quincy saying, he said, 'Cedar, go into the vocal booth. Michael, go in there with Cedar.' And Michael was following me, and I go into the booth. I see 2 mic stands, 2 music stands, 2 lyric sheets, and on the lyric sheet that I'm looking at, it says, 'I Can't Stop Loving You, Michael Cedar, Michael Cedar.' And it was Michael. It was in that moment that I realized that, oh my God, I'm doing a duet with the king of pop. Lord have mercy, help me. But he was so cool, and I found it so reflection. Cedar also revealed Michael had a lot of fun during the recording sections, often displaying his funny side. Michael was funny. He had a real king sense of humor, which surprised me because you hear all these stories about how strange he is. I guess he felt relaxed with me because I wasn't in awe of him when we met, and I was kind of, yo, Michael, what's up? I think he found that reflection. If I was talking to Quincy and we were serious, for some reason, Michael would toss cashews and peanuts at us, and I would be talking to Quincy, and these peanuts will start flying by. And you know, the duet is a very serious love song, and when I'm doing my verse, Michael start making these faces at me, so I would go and mess up. Quincy would say, "Cedar, come on, You're holding up the album and I would get in trouble. The original version, album version of the song opened up with Michael cooing a spoken intro backed by a longer version of the open music. According to Michael Jackson, he recorded that part of his song while lying in bed. The intro went in part is, I just want to lay next to you for a while. You look so beautiful tonight. A lot of people misunderstand me. That's why they don't know me at all. I just want to touch you and hold you. This intro was mixed out on the 7-inch single on future releases of Bad and Most compilation albums. They also released a Spanish version of the song. I Just Can't Stop Loving You reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles and adult contemporary charts, making it the first in a string of 5 #1 singles from Bad. I wish Whitney and Michael would have sing together, but see together was always nice to hear. Her vocals complement Michael very well here. While the first album from the album wasn't probably the smartest song to lead off with, but it's still a very good ballad and vocally one of the strongest yet smoothest tracks here. The ninth single that's coming up next from the album is Dirty Diana. The song was released by Epic Records on April 18, 1988 as the fifth single from Bad. Dirty Diana was written by Michael Jackson. It was produced by Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. After Beat It, Dirty Diana was the second hard rock song of his solo career, with lyrics about a persistent groupie. On the track, he sees him tackling the issue of groupies in a more aggressive way than he did with Billie Jean. He hired a guitarist named Steve Stevens, who worked for Billy Idol, to back him on the track. Initial reports at that time suggested it was a poke at his close friend Diana Ross. However, it was later denied. In an interview from the special edition of Bad, Quincy Jones later confirmed that the song lyrics were about groupies. And on the song, in an interview in 1987, Michael said, "I love that Dirty Diana. Is one of my favorites. It's a life story about a groupie." I hate saying the word groupie, but that's what it is. It's something that has experience, and a lot of people growing up on the road experience. It's not about Lady Diana. It was about a certain type of girls that hang around concerts and clubs. They call them groupies. I live with that all my life. These girls, they do everything with the band, everything you could imagine. Recalling a concert in London where Michael Jackson met Princess Diana, he added, "I took it out of the show in honor of Her Royal Highness. She took me away and said, 'Are you going to do Dirty Diana?' And I said, 'No, I took it out of the show because of you.' And she said, 'No, I want you to do the song. Do the song.' And she told me it would be an honor to meet me. And I said, 'It's an honor to meet you.' That song was not performed that night, but it was in fact added back into the list shortly after hearing that it's one of her favorite songs. In an interview for the special edition of the release of Bad, Quincy Jones said this song is was the spirit of killing me softly with her song. He says his flair for drama comes in play as he was a theatrical song performer and writer and performer. Dirty Diana received mixed reviews from contemporary music artists, but a commercial success worldwide in 1988. When this went into number one in the U.S., Michael Jackson came the first artist with with 5 number one hits from the same album. The previous 4 was I Can't Stop Loving You, Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, and Man in the Mirror. The single was certified platinum. This is really a chance for Michael to showcase his love and appreciation for rock music. The guitar riffs are intense, and the way Michael sings this is what makes the song about that particular groupie that you might have come across so great. He speaks right into the heart of the issues of the women of the industry that jumps from men to men, and that's one of the most beautifully written songs from Michael. Although speculation on who the song was about still runs rampant, but the song is still flawless and a true classic. The 10th single that's coming up next from the album is Smooth Criminal. It was written by Michael Jackson and produced by Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. It was released on November 14, 1988 as the 7th single. Smooth Criminal was an idea Michael had in 1984. Originally, it was supposed to be a Western musical with Michael being a gunslinger. When he didn't like the original sketching of the concept, he decided to make a gangster scene instead. From there, he wrote basic lyrics to go along for the idea he had for the musical hook. Many of the songs Michael Jackson writes are very personal in nature, but this one, which he wrote himself, tells of a fictional story of a particular adopt gangster. So something far from his personal experience. Michael Jackson takes the role of onlooker in the song, coming across the victim and asking her over and over, Annie, are you okay? Apparently, Annie is not okay as she been struck by the smooth criminal. The lyrics address the woman who has been attacked in her apartment by a smooth criminal. The refrain, Annie, are you okay? Are inspired by Rescue Annie, a dummy used in CPR training. Michael Jackson asked Vincent Patterson to conceive a conception for the short film. Vincent Patterson listened to the unfinished song and came up with the concept of a 1930s gangster club. Vincent Patterson, who was the lead singer in the music videos for Beat It and Thriller, choreographic Smooth Criminal video with Michael Jackson and Jeffrey Daniel of Shalimar. The video in his white suit and hat paid tribute to the Fred Astaire musical comedy film The Bandwagon. The video, directed by Colin Chillers, was shot between mid-February and April 1987 at Culver City, California, in the back lots of Universal Studios Hollywood. It premiered on MTV on the night of October 13th, 1988. There are four versions of the video, with the original being in the Moonwalker film. This song is also remembered for the dance routine and its music video, which concludes the apparently physically impossible quote-unquote anti-gravity lean with the help of archers in the floor that locked the dancer's shoes locked into. The famous aspect of the video is the forward lean where Michael and his dancers appeared defying gravity. And the video, ropes and magnets were used to achieve the special effect. In the video, Michael and the other dancers performed a lean that was physically impossible. The dancers leaned forward 45 degrees with their back straight and their feet flat on the floor and holding the poles before returning upright. The lean moves move the body center of mass further than it can support. This song was a highlight of his live shows where he performed different versions of the 45-degree lean, popularizing the video, often leaves the crowd wondering how it's done. The routine grew more elaborate over time. Smooth Criminal was an international smash, topping the charts in Spain, Belgium, and the New Netherlands, reaching the top 10 and several others. It reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming the 6th top 10 single from bands. It reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot Black single charts. It was certified double platinum. To me, this was one of his best songs from his musical catalog that showcases best blend of R&B, grooves, and rock edginess. And a turning point in his shift towards darker and harder edge material, Michael came with something that was unexpected to most. He vocally carries the track, which possesses a rapid-fire rhythm and a fierce sounds behind him. And of course, Annie, Are You Okay remains a top 3 iconic lyric in the history of Michael Jackson. If there was one song that totally captured the sense of artistic freedom that MJ felt after Thriller, it was definitely this track. This is pop music as suspense drama, but the way Michael used the music to create an irresistible hook has the listener enjoying the track long before stepping back to consider the darker consequences of the lyrics. Where its powerful punch, Smooth Criminal was the perfect album closer for Bad, leaving the listener filled with energy and wanting more. The 11th and final single that's coming up next from the album is Leave Me Alone. It was written by Michael Jackson and produced by Quincy Jones, and the co-producer credits goes to Michael Jackson. Leave Me Alone was a Michael Jackson song made in response to multiple false and negative rumors that appeared in the media and tabloids about him, occurring more frequently following the titanic success of his Thriller album. Beginning in 1986, the tabloids began to publish rumors about Michael Jackson. One of the first being a story claiming that Michael Jackson slept in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber to slow the aging process. A picture leaked out to the media of him lying down in a hyperbaric chamber at a hospital he visited. His purchase of a pet chimpanzee named Bubbles caused the media to label it as evidence of his increasing detachment from reality. Another frequent claim from the media about his plastic surgery, specifically his nose, which he admitted having repaired. These stories only intensified after his appearance following the 1984 Pepsi commercial incident that left him almost completely covered in third-degree burns and with no hair. It also reported that he had offered to buy the bones of the Elephant Man. He stated that story was a complete lie. These stories inspired the nickname Wacko Jacko, which MJ acquired the following year and would come to despise. The animated short film, which took 9 months to produce, made fun of these tabloid rumors. The music video was filmed in January of 1988 in Culver City, California, and was released on January 2nd, 1989. The video appeared in the 1988 film Moonwalking. In essence, the video is an amusement park consisting of stylistically rude images based on his successful career since the 1982 masterpiece Thriller. It was an emphasis on the tabloid view of his personal life and public image, referring the nickname Wacko Jacko given to him by the press and various headlines associated with him in the 1980s. Leave Me Alone ended up being its 8th single, released in February of 1989 in every region except for the United States. Leave Me Alone topping the top 40 in 18 countries. The video also won Best Special Effects at the 1989 MTV Video Music Awards and received 5 nominations for Video of the Year, Viewer's Choice, Breakthrough Video, Best Editing, and Best Art Direction. Michael was really tired of the media frenzy that seemed to surround him and this song, which essentially his message to the fake fans and the media alike to just be him, just like let him be. The video drove that message home. This is a really slept on song and I really enjoyed it. Sponsored by Pepsi, the Bad Tour began in Japan, marking his first performances there since 1972 with the Jackson 5. Attendance figures for the first 14 days in Japan totaled a record-breaking 450,000. Michael Jackson performed 7 sold-out songs at Wembley Center, beating the previous record held by Madonna and Bruce Springsteen. The third concert on July 16, 1988 was attended by Diana, Princess of Wales, and Prince Charles. Michael Jackson into the Guinness World Records 3 times alone from the tour alone. The Bad Tour was a major financial success, grossing more than 125 million. He performed 123 concerts in 15 countries to an audience of 4.4 million. There was no way any artist could do what Michael did, and he proved it with this tour. The Bad Tour would gross over $125 million, making it the biggest tour ever put. And the show that Michael put on was absolutely amazing. Over a year and a half worth of touring, 123 shows, huge sold out crowds and stadiums, and being sponsored by Pepsi. The Bad Tour really is the greatest tour that Michael had the pleasure of taking part of, and likely is what helped Bad climb to nearly 10 million sales in the US and almost 40 million records worldwide. Any tour that land an artist in the Guinness Book of World Records is legendary, and that what sums up Michael's career period, making it the highest grossing solo concert of the 1980s. With over 35 million copies sold worldwide, Bad is one of the best-selling albums of all time. The album has been named by several publications as one of the greatest albums of all time. In 1988, Bad was nominated for 6 Grammy Awards for Album of the Year, Best Pop Vocal Performance Male, Best R&B Vocal Performance Male, and won for Best Engineering Recording Non-Classical. Following the year, it was nominated for Record of the Year for Man in the Mirror. In 1990, won for Best Music Video Short Form for Leave Me Alone. Bad won an American Music Award for Favorite Soul/R&B Song at the 1988 American Music Awards. At the 1988 Soul Train Music Awards, the album won Best R&B/Soul Album Male, and Bad won Best R&B/Soul Single Male. And the following year, Man in the Mirror also won Best R&B and Soul Single/Soul Single Male for his Bad videos and previous videos throughout the 80s. Michael Jackson received the MTV Video Vanguard Award to celebrate its 25th anniversary. The documentary film Bad 25 and the album Bad 25 was released in 2012. In 1987, there really wasn't a bigger star than Michael Jackson. After the highest selling album of all time, Thriller, MJ was untouchable and on top of the world. He could have been satisfied with the best-selling album of all times, but Michael Jackson was a perfectionist and loved to challenge himself. He wanted to go beyond and better what he had done before. How can you top the biggest selling album of all time? How can you top a cultural phenomenon? How can you top yourself? These were just some of the questions that Michael Jackson faced as he prepared to record the follow-up to the global smash that was Thriller. To spend hours, days, weeks, months, and years writing, crafting, and perfecting the songs that would eventually form bad, but looking to top, match, or even exist at the same stratosphere as Thriller was going to be a daunting task. Throughout the length of the album, Michael Jackson reminded us why he was a captivating artist. His penchant for perfectly crafted pop is on full display in the album's many highlights that demand attention from your ears and cast a spell over your feet. This album features a different sound than the previous two albums, taking the sound that MJ had flirted with and on Thriller even further. Absent from this album production wise was the seduction soul of previous songs like I Can't Help It or The Lady of My Life, and they were replaced with edgier sounds that was more reminiscent of the rock ting aggressive vibe but beat it from the Thriller album. Once again working with Quincy Jones on a third straight and final album together. The one missing component from this album was Ron Template, the man who had added his own flavor on both Thriller and Off the Wall, was gone. It showed in the sound. The rapid fire rhythms of a track like Smooth Criminal allow Michael to go into a different artistic dimension, while the black rock sound on Dirty Diana, carried by the resounding guitars and the hard-hitting drums, back the yelling Corkins within Michael's verses and voice. The title track, from a production standpoint, is another intense sound, as the rhythm, carried by a simple bass riff and a company organ on the breakdown, is such a hard-hitting feel that make Michael more aggressive than ever. The way the drums hit help to bring an intense level higher, and the way the melody move on The Way You Make Me Feel blends the soulful funk vocals of Michael and with the rock ting heavy pop sound of the instrument. For the ballad I Just Can't Stop Loving You, we get probably the softest rhythm and melody of the whole entire album. Of course, the playful melody that preheats the speakers on Leave Me Alone is surprisingly infectious. There's a bit glorious, majestic feel to the production of Man in the Mirror, and the funky groove of Another Part of Me is what I consider the defining sound of this era of Michael. All in all, the production on this challenge conventional music label showcase why Michael was the artist he was. But the way Michael Jackson used the music to create an irresistible hook that has the listener enjoying the track long before stepping back, considering the dark consequences of the lyrics. With its powerful punch, Smooth Criminal was the perfect album closer for Bad, leaving the listener filled with more energy and wanting more, and given the unrealistic task of following Thriller, Bad not only meets the challenge and many instances surpassed it, while its sales of over 30 plus million is impressive in their own right. Bad then outsell Thriller. What Bad did achieve in its delivery of unprecedented run of 5 consecutive number one hit singles and a slew of short movies that became instant classics, it showed an artist continuing to grow and build on his creative path. This incredible classic is one of his crown jewels in the catalog. In 1988, Bad was nominated for Grammy Awards for Album of the Year, Best Pop Vocal Performance Male, Best R&B Vocal Performance Male, and won for Best Engineer Recording Non-Classical. The following year, it was nominated for Record of the Year for Man in the Mirror in 1991, for Best Music Video Short Form for Leave Me Alone. Bad won an American Music Award for Favorite Soul / R&B Song at the 1988 American Music Awards. At the 1988 Soul Train Awards, the album won Best R&B / Soul Album Male, and Bad won Best R&B / Soul Single Male. The following year, the Man in the Mirror also won Best R&B / Soul Single Male. When Michael Jackson was nominated for numerous awards at the 30th Annual Grammy Awards for 1988, but didn't win nothing, I felt like it was one of the biggest and disappointing Grammy slugs ever. Also, it was disrespectful to the black culture and Michael Jackson. That's why I never celebrate and watch the Grammys and the Oscars, because they never accept, acknowledge, respect, appreciate, and value black culture. There was so much pressure and expectations on MJ and this incredible classic to follow up after the tremendous success of Thriller, which was so ridiculously high. Bad was a multi-million shifter that was so important to 80s pop culture, and essentially an essential R&B and pop landmark, already set a gold standard for pop music and entertainment. Even though Bad didn't outsell Thriller, it still was a musical classic blockbuster that had a tremendous impact on music. Regardless of the sales, Bad is still one of the best albums ever made from Michael Jackson. Bad stands at the second highest album in Michael's career, and probably the financial of his title as the biggest star in the entire world, not just the United States. His outreach in foreign countries and his stadium-packed shows outside the country only strengthen his success worldwide. When we look back at Bad, I believe this is what we remember most: the music videos, the song, the tour, Guinness World Record, World Records, the worldwide acclaim, the whole experience. Bad wasn't just an album; it was an entire musical and worldwide experience that we were blessed to have as fans. As a lifetime MJ fan, when it comes to the debate of which album is the best MJ album, Off the Wall is the top of my list, which I feel strongly about. But at the same time, I also feel like Bad is his best all-around album musically. From the content, the production, and tracks, I give this classic a 10 out of 10. Thank you for joining me on this musical ride throughout the video. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment on the video. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. Also, don't forget to turn on your notification for new videos. And like I always say, let's celebrate our legends while they still alive and always give them their flowers, love, respect, and recognition. Stay safe and blessed. Have a good night. I'm out. Peace.